Okay, let's get it. Black girl magic dripping. Yeah, she's on a mission. Keeping our culture lifted. Now you can watch and listen to Tammi Mac. Tammi Mac. Oh, what show is that? It's the Tammi Mac show on Fox Soul. Tammi Mac, Tammi Mac, yeah. Who that? Tammi Mac, Tammi Mac, hey. So you know it's Tammi Mac, hey.
Welcome to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. I'm Tammi Mac. Hey, y'all. Look, we are in the middle of National Infertility Awareness Week. About 11% of women in the country have difficulty getting pregnant, and Black women are twice as likely as white women to experience infertility. And since it's National Infertility Awareness Week, we want to spread the word that not all infertility is untreatable, and not all treatment is expensive. I know y'all happy to hear that, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, the business of being Black on the Tammi Mac Late Show is infertility in the Black community. Please welcome scientist and reproductive Dr. Erica Loudon. Hi, Dr. Loudon.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
Journalist and board member of Resolve, the National Infertility Association, Nichelle Poston is with us. Hi, Nichelle. Writer, editor, I think your mute's on. Writer, editor, and speaker L'Oreal Thompson Payton, and professional youth librarian and the founder of the Broken Brown Egg, Regina Townsend is here. Hi, Regina.
Hi.
Nice to see you all yet again.
Yes, nice to see you, and thank you for having us. It is National Infertility Awareness Week, and we are all empowered, right, ladies?
It's been a fun week.
So tell me this. So you ladies look really happy. Y'all must have got a lot of ladies pregnant this week.
Yeah,
I should say a lot of families. A lot of families.
Educating a lot of families. Let's just say that, right?
And getting them pregnant.
There we go. Yes. So let's talk about this then. Why should Black people care about National Infertility Week? Why should Black people care, Doctor?
Black people should care because it affects us disproportionately, as you mentioned. We're twice as likely to be affected. And there's a lot of stigma and taboo things that we talked about in our last segment that need to be broken, because we don't want you to feel like you're alone. We are silent and we suffer alone because we don't talk about these things. And so that's what bringing awareness is, to empower you to know what's available, to know that you are not the only person that's dealing with this. And so you can seek the care that you may need.
Absolutely. Nichelle, why should Black people care about National Infertility Week?
Because it's an opportunity for us to build stronger communities. It's an opportunity for us to just elevate our voices. And the one thing I would love to say is too many of us feel like we are alone. And it's important for us to stand in our truth so that we can plant seeds and encourage other people to just talk about it. And also just say no to those baby shower invites. I'm sure many of us, when we were on that journey, that's self-care, saying no. And so we need to know about it. We need to talk about it. It's just imperative.
Oh, we're going to get back around to that, because you brought up something that, sis, no to the baby shower? What? We're going to get back into that one, Nichelle. L'Oreal, why should Black people care about National Infertility Awareness Week?
Honestly, Regina said it better than I ever could on the Broken Brown Egg Instagram page. And today we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the murder of Ma'Khia Bryant, coming on the heels of the verdict of the Chauvin trial. And if you believe that Black Lives Matter, that means from creation, through your whole life. And it's a 360 cycle, it's just from beginning to end. Black Lives Matter, and they matter from the very beginning. And if you need help in that, there's resources, education, information available, and just trying to spread the word and let people know what's out there.
Regina, why? Why me as a Black woman? Why should I care about this week?
Well, because infertility in reproductive health is health. So some of these issues that we are not addressing because of the shame and taboo of infertility is leading us to wait too long to have conversations about fibroids, about the Black maternal mortality crisis, about polycystic ovary syndrome. Reproductive health is health, and it's also social justice. Just like L'Oreal just mentioned, it is difficult to think about creating Black life in a country and in a world where Black life doesn't seem to matter. And so we really need to celebrate the Black quality of life, because people are struggling and they need support. And that's what this week is for. It's about letting people know this is normal. This is happening to a lot more people than people think. And they need and deserve your support and care.
Well, since L'Oreal brought up the 16-year-old who was shot by police on the same day that George Floyd's murderer, Derek Chauvin, was pronounced guilty, and you mentioned, Regina, social justice and infertility awareness being a part of social justice. Let's dive a little bit into that. What does that mean when we say infertility equals social justice? How do the two mix and matter? Can you speak to that, Dr. Loudon?
Yeah, well, one key point to how that matters is there are, unfortunately, institutional racism and biases that, unfortunately, the healthcare system has in place. For instance, endometriosis. It's reported that Black women aren't as affected as their counterparts. However, that's not true. It often gets dismissed by physicians because, oh, it's just, they have PID, or, because they're sexually promiscuous, or it's okay. So these things occur. When I'm complaining and telling you I have these symptoms, it's brushed off because we're not listened to. Our voice is muted sometimes. And a lot of times, unfortunately, these systems that are in place don't see it, that they have cultural biases that come into the workforce. And that should not be the place in healthcare. So that is a social justice issue.
Wow. And that's definitely something that women who are expecting a child should be aware of. They should know before they go into the hospital that they are up against, yet again, more racism that's a little less overt, if you will. But Dr. Loudon, look, we all not doctors. And so you threw out a few words, my sister, that we don't really know what you're talking about. So I think you said a PI something, and then you said endometriosis. You spoke on a lot of things. So educate us on what that is so that we know.
Okay, very briefly, endometriosis is a disease that can cause chronic pelvic pain. And sometimes we're like, oh, that's just your period, that's normal. No, severe pain that's causing you to have less quality of life around your period time is not normal. And so endometriosis is when the endometrial glands where the baby should be and where your menstrual cycle occurs, that tissue can actually go outside the fallopian tubes and implant outside of the uterus. Well, your abdominal wall cavity was never meant to have bleeding every month like your cycle in the uterus. And so when that happens, it causes a hostile inflammatory environment that can scar your tubes and give you little implants on your intestines, on your ovaries. And so it does make it difficult to become pregnant because your tubes can get blocked as a result. Your egg quality diminishes as a result. And so it is a very significant and important thing. And once again, it's brushed off, oh, that's just your period, take some Advil. No, can you investigate? If I tell you I'm taking medicine and it's not helping, do your due diligence and tell me what's wrong.
Yeah.
And then as far as PID, pelvic inflammatory disease, that's just where bacteria from a sexually transmitted infection can go into the vagina, into the uterus, and it can cause problems so some doctors say, oh, she's 25, she's 20, she's promiscuous. How many sexual partners? Oh, she just has PID, probably just give her antibiotics and send her home. Well, no, let me tell you, I don't have, this is not normal. So that's what I mean by that. And I can say for sure that this happens because I trained in urban cities, like I did medical school in Detroit, Michigan. And I've seen it where in the ER doctors would just throw antibiotics at a patient and send them home instead of sending them to the appropriate next step.
That's interesting that we get judged in the hospital by how many partners we have. Isn't that unfortunate?
It is. But that's society. It's just not every, like police officers, that's what social justice, healthcare, businesses. You walk into a grocery store, I can't walk into a store and shop without you following me. It's everywhere.
But I'm sorry though, Dr. Loudon, you just don't think, like, I don't even think it's at the top of our brain that the doctors are looking at us and judging us. I thought going into doctor's office was the most non-judgmental place you could be, but look
And
at
it
that.
it should be, but it's not always. And so that's one of the reasons why a lot of people of color, whether you're Hispanic, Latino, or African American descent, we tend to find a doctor we can relate to because you understand my cultural background, and I feel like you're not going to judge me when I tell you my personal information, because a doctor wants you to tell him your most intimate things that you won't tell anybody else, because that's the only way I can help you if I know what has happened to you and what's going on with you.
Nichelle, I see you shaking your head, but we're going to take a quick break. Hold on to that fire, my sister. Hold on to the fire. We're going to let it loose right after this break on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul, everybody. Listen, the business of being Black tonight is Infertility Awareness Week. And if you want more of this content, all you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you hit that notification bell to get all the best updates. And you can get new videos and live shows. And if you like what you're seeing, if you're feeling us, go ahead, give us a thumbs up. How about that? Please welcome scientist and reproductive Dr. Erica Loudon, journalist and board member of Resolve, the National Infertility Association, Nichelle Poston, writer, editor, and speaker, L'Oreal Thompson Payton, and professional youth librarian and founder of the Broken Brown Egg, Regina Townsend. Nichelle, you were about to set this screen afire before we left, so go.
No, not really set it on fire, but I just wanted to add that unconscious biases are real, right? And they begin even at the diagnosis of many of us when we are diagnosed with unexplained infertility, endometriosis. And so in order for us to advance health equity, we really need to revisit some of these public policies. We really need to hold our legislators accountable. And the one thing I love about the Broken Brown Egg and Dr. Loudon and her platform, and even L'Oreal, I've seen her on the internet, is that you guys are elevating the voices of women who feel like they cannot speak up. And so we need to encourage our people, our men, our women to be their own advocates. I just had a myomectomy about 6 weeks ago. And I remember coming out of my surgery, I was in the PACU, which is a post-anesthesia care unit. And I come out and I feel horrible. I felt like they didn't do anything on my uterus, as they said that they did most of the surgery or cutting in my back. And I shared with the nurse, hey, I'm in pain. And she ignored me. And I was in the PACU for 10 hours. So I sat there for a second. Well, not sat, I was lying in the bed for that time, trying to figure out how in the world can I advocate for myself when I have no family around and I'm the only one in this PACU unit, right? And I said, I need to call on a doctor. Called on a doctor, and one of the nurses just said, oh, she's fine. She said she always had bad cramps. And I said, yeah, but that's not what I'm feeling now. I just had a surgery to remove 15 fibroids, and those feelings, that pain should no longer exist. So encouraging all of us to be our own advocates, questioning the doctor, seeking 2 and 3 opinions, even going to the extreme of just writing. Many of us just, let's just write it off as a bad experience. No, write to the healthcare facilities, write to those people, because that's the only way, because unconscious bias is still alive and well. And it doesn't even matter if you're an educated woman, you could be uneducated. It is real. And so we need to just speak up. We really do.
Yeah, I'm going to go to our soulmates real quick. Incog says doctors are often quick to offer a hysterectomy as a solution instead of other means to preserve a woman's gynecological health, like dietary changes to curb estrogen. And then Joy Swanson says, I wish I could find doctors like these. I'm imagining they're referring to you, Dr. Loudon. But let's talk about doctors who, first of all, there's a lot to unpack here in a very small time. I do want to start with something as simple and basic as, and Regina, I'm going to go to you on this. What is infertility?
So infertility is the inability to get pregnant after 1 year of trying if you are under the age of 35, and that time is cut to 6 months if you're over 35. It also includes the inability to maintain a pregnancy. So recurrent pregnancy loss is included in that. And there's various reasons that can cause infertility, from hormonal issues to other reproductive health issues on the organs, such as the ones that Dr. Loudon has mentioned. And a lot of times we don't know that those things exist until we're trying to get pregnant, and then we find out that there is something not happening. So when we're in sex ed and they're telling us, you know, as soon as you have sex, you're going to get pregnant, and we find out that's not the case. And especially for us as Black women, we're told you need to go to school, you need to get a good job, you need to do this in this order. And so we're waiting longer because we're trying to check off all the boxes of what it means to be a good Black woman, or so society has said. And then we're finding out at a later stage that there are things we could have done to preserve our fertility or to investigate it sooner.
L'Oreal, I saw you shaking your head in agreement with our soulmate that said doctors are often quick to offer a hysterectomy. Why do you think that is?
Historically, the unconscious bias, the Black women, are disposable in this country, or they think we can tolerate more pain than we actually can. I mean, it took me 3 years, about 3 different doctors to advocate for the myomectomy Michelle mentioned, to remove, I think it was about 17, almost 20 fibroids. Like, I had the uterus of a 4-month pregnant woman and I wasn't pregnant. And every time I went to a doctor, they're like, well, let's try this birth control. Let's, it's just, you just have heavy periods. That's normal. And no, I was like bleeding out every month, like onto the sofa. Like, I remember distinctly one time, and TMI maybe, but also like no one talks about that. So when you are dealing with it, you think, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? This is so embarrassing. And it happens a lot, especially in Black women, because we have a higher prevalence of fibroids. It runs in my family on both sides. So it was a matter of time until it happened. And I was very adamant when I went into the office to say, I don't want a hysterectomy. I was 30 at the time, I think. So
was that your suggestion? Did they suggest to you a hysterectomy?
They didn't. I didn't give them the chance. I was going in there like, this is what we're going to do. I want to have kids someday. And but I am loud. I am vocal. I will advocate for myself. And not everyone feels as empowered to do that.
But that comes also with those implicit biases, because the stereotype is that Black women don't need any help. We have way too many babies. There's so many kids in our community that are not being taken care of. And that is the stereotype that has held for so long. So when it comes down to, oh, you're having difficult periods, well, you obviously don't want any kids. You guys don't need that. So let's jump straight to this. So that is another layer of it. This stereotype that says, we don't need any help getting pregnant. We actually need more policing of our bodies and control of our bodies. And that's why people are getting hysterectomies without asking for them or without even being told. Fannie Lou Hamer started her work because she was given a hysterectomy without her consent or knowledge. So this is all social justice. This racism permeates.
I do want to speak on this. I know we have a little time, but yes, L'Oreal is correct. You do want to go in and make sure a doctor knows that you do have desires to have children before they give you the different options. No doctor should go straight to hysterectomy without telling you I recommend a hysterectomy. Well, tell me why. Because there are some instances where hysterectomy is the only solution. That's very rare, but if your fibroids been growing for years, they can be up to your diaphragm. And the concern is I can go do a myomectomy, but let me tell you, you could be hemorrhaging on a table and I have no other choice but to save your life, and you would potentially end with a hysterectomy. There are some cases when that is necessary, but there are other treatment things, and that comes to being aware of your body, knowing that you should not be soaking a pad in an hour on your period. That's not normal. I should not be looking like I'm pregnant and I'm not, because it takes a while for those fibers to get big. So if you catch them at an earlier stage before they get huge and out of control, you can have the world is your oyster as far as treatment. And there are some dietary things that we are now learning can help slow down the growth of those fibroids. So yes, hysterectomy is not the first the first stop. There are different things along that path if we see you in an appropriate stage of your fibroid growth.
We're going to take a quick break and come right back on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Tonight, the business of being Black is Infertility Awareness Week. Nichelle, what exactly does infertility have to do with fibroids and hysterectomies and the likes and periods?
Well, fibroids can affect a woman's fertility in a number of different ways. It can block your fallopian tubes. It can do a number of different things. It can be in your cervix. And that was the case for myself. I had 15, but during my exams, they only found 4. I didn't discover that I had 15 until I had an MRI. And I can tell you, I am so upset to know that for years, I had very, very bad cramps. I'm talking, I one day had to be escorted home by the police because I was just that messed up. And I remember just balling up to the point where people who are around just look like, what is wrong with this young lady? Is she on drugs, unfortunately? But I can say since having my fibroids removed, nothing. I feel no pain. And I'm just so sad to know that I suffered. L'Oreal, I'm sure you can agree that you went through pain for many, many years, bad cramps, calling out of work, not going to school, just bleeding anything and everything you can possibly imagine. Yes, going through your clothes. And so I want to throw in Resolve for a little bit. So I'm a part of the National Infertility Association, and they're committed to setting up and connecting with folks, especially the White Dress Project, which is an organization, and many of you who are watching, if you're suffering from fibroids, I will encourage you to check it out. But you should not, and we've said this many times, periods, menstrual cycles, they should not be excruciating. You should not be just in a lot of pain. And I don't know if L'Oreal wants to even mention her experience, but yeah, it was rough for 40 years, for 41 years to be exact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's painful. It's embarrassing. You don't want to talk about it. You are calling out of work. Or one time I was in the bathroom for like 30 minutes because it just would not stop. And you're using like ultra tampons, overnight pads, and nothing will help. And that's what actually, from the myomectomy and scar tissue that I had there, we learned was blocking the fallopian tubes, which led to the infertility. It's all related, like Regina said. I mean, from the time that you have your first period and you're trying to get pregnant, like all that whole cycle and pathway is just, it's all connected. It's all reproductive health is social justice. I mean, it's all connected.
And so for women to know their health, they should ask a doctor. I'm sure Dr. Loudon would even suggest getting an HSG. Now, she can tell you the exact term, but an HSG will check it.
Dr. Loudon, I want to kind of bring this home and wrap this up in the sense of when we talk about fibroids and hysterectomies and menstrual cycles. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear about a woman's period. They don't want to hear about a woman bleeding, but we'll watch horror movies all day long, with blood spewing out of our heads and our arms and our legs and everywhere else, but please explain how infertility and periods, you can't talk about one without talking about the other.
You can't. That's such a loaded question. That could be a whole lecture. But as far as so when your period comes, it's normal for the first 2 years after adolescence starts their period for it to be irregular. But after those first 2 years, if you're having missed periods, that's not normal. A normal period cycle could be anywhere from 21 days to 35 days in length.
And you have to have one in order to be pregnant, right?
You need to have a cycle. There's occasionally where some women can spontaneous ovulate, but that's in the PCOS says, but that's not regular. You can't really time it if you're trying to get pregnant adequately. So yes, You do need to have regular periods. We need your tubes to be open. They've talked about fibroids, but fibroids aren't the only thing that scars your tubes. It could be endometriosis that can cause tubal damage. It could be because you had a surgery, like maybe you had your appendix out. Well, that surgery could have caused some scarring when they did it, so that could cause tubal damage.
Regina, what are you finding that maybe women are infertile from the most? What is the most problematic when it comes to infertility?
When it comes to Black women, the two things that I hear the most are fibroids or polycystic ovary syndrome. And in both cases, they usually haven't even heard about it before. When it comes to like endometriosis, they've been told their whole life that the whole time they've had a period, they've just been told, well, just, periods are rough, periods are hard. And nobody has actually gone to the root of the problem. They've just been given, like L'Oreal mentioned, birth control pills after birth control pills. And that was with me. I have polycystic ovary syndrome and also hypothyroidism. And so that caused really long periods, like 60-day long periods.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've had periods longer than, people have been married. So I was struggling and sitting in emergency rooms waiting to be seen. And all people would give me is a birth control pill without actually looking into what could be the root cause. I didn't even hear about polycystic ovary syndrome until I started saying birth control pills will not help me. And also, I would like to get pregnant. So let's go to what is the problem here. So those are the things that I'm hearing the most from people, especially Black women, is fibroids. So many Black women are discussing not being treated for their fibroids, having had hysterectomies when they didn't know that there were other options. Those are the things that we are really struggling with. So getting the word out is vital, because then people know what to ask or what to say when they go to the doctor.
According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the largest age gap between siblings is 41 years. Elizabeth and Buttle gave birth to a daughter at 19 in 1956, then gave birth to a son in 1997 at 6. And that baby boy was reportedly healthy. What are your thoughts on this? Anyone can go.
Well, she had a built-in babysitter, I tell you that much. Me and my siblings are separated out like that. And again, people's assumptions. My sister and I are 9.5 years apart. My brother and I are 15 years apart. And people will ask, first of all, they would ask me as a 15-year-old, is that your child? They never would ask a white 15-year-old that. And they would also ask me, so are you all have the same dad? You all have the same parents? People would ask those kind of things. But I will say, everybody's genetics is different. So some people can have kids, years and years apart, but we also need to be doing what we can to find out where we stand, getting those fertility checkups and workups to find out what our options are, so that we don't get down the line and think we're going to have that good age gap that she had and find out that is not a possibility for us.
Well, what
every story is different.
Right now is a commercial, and we're coming right back on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. The business of being Black tonight is the Infertility Awareness Week. Our chat is going off the chain here, so let's go. Joy wants to know, what was the name of the infertility organization?
Well, there are a number of them, but the national infertility organization is Resolve, and Resolve is the National Infertility Association. It's actually based in DC. And then Regina, you can share your platform and L'Oreal as well.
Yeah, so my organization is the Broken Brown Egg, and I keep a running resource list on all of the different subtopics in infertility, including funding, resources for male factor infertility, all of those things. And I try to keep the list just of people of color or Black people who started them, because representation matters. It so matters.
L'Oreal?
I don't have one. I'm just out here, an accidental advocate, but I'm a fan of Broken Brown Egg, Fertility for Colored Girls, all the Black Girl Magic and Infertility. They have been such a lifesaver.
I would like to add that Resolve, and I'm one of the founding members, we have a diversity and inclusion council. And so I look forward to working with Regina and other women who have their own platforms, because in 2015, when I did not get pregnant right away, I felt really alone. And so, it's important that we stay connected.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because there is a question for both Nichelle and L'Oreal in the chat room. But before I get to that question, Therese says, I used to get mine for exactly 21 days. Now it's 5 days. Thank God. And then my aunt gets so sick with cramps, she can't work for a week and her period stays on for 17 days. All these ladies know about that, and they know that it's not normal, and they know that there is a way to resolve that. The question for Nichelle and L'Oreal, because you all have talked about your fibroids and you've talked about having surgery, they want to know, do you have children? And our soulmate added, no disrespect. They just want to know because they have the same issues and they're wondering.
Well, I'm still on my journey, and to give the ladies some hope, I'm 41 years old and I have not given up hope. I am going through IVF. I'm just still letting my body heal after I had an open myomectomy. So I had like a cesarean, like you would give birth, but you just don't have the baby. So I'm still on that journey. According to my doctor, I still have enough eggs. So you don't lose. There's a chance, but you don't lose all of your eggs all of the time.
L'Oreal?
We have matching scars, so twinsies, and not yet, still on the journey as well. It's been a year that we've undergone IVF treatment. We've had 4 failed cycles, including one that was transfer that was canceled due to too much liquid in the uterine lining. So still going, and keeping the faith that it will happen eventually. So there is hope, I believe.
Dr. Loudon, Nichelle is giving hope, saying, I'm 41, I'm still trying. You have hope for those who are 51.
Yes, there's 50. So there are cutoffs. So there are institutional guidelines. So if a 51-year-old is healthy and still has an AMH that's not 0, there is hope. Is that number really high? No, it doesn't. It's not, because the prognosis does decrease with age, because as women, we're born with all the eggs we're ever going to have, whereas a man, he makes new sperm every 89 days. So that egg reserve declines. We see the biggest hit start to happen at 35, but once again, yes, 40, 41, you still have eggs. The problem then at that point is that the quality can go down if you're not doing things to help, having like good diet, green leafy vegetables, antioxidants, turmeric and ginger. So those are some things in place that you can do to make whatever eggs you have be the best quality as you age. At 51, we will help you. Sometimes that means if the prognosis is low because your AMH is close to being 0, we will talk about donor eggs, donor embryos, because there are more than one way to have a child. You still can carry this pregnancy, and for that definition is different for everyone. But we never say never. Let's see where you are and then discuss the statistics and see if you want to move forward.
You say once a woman hits menopause, she can still get pregnant.
Yeah, there are some cases, because average age of menopause is 51. But when you're in menopause, doesn't mean you have no eggs. You actually still have eggs according to studies. And you can spontaneously ovulate. And those are kind of those babies. Oops, how did that happen? I'm pregnant. I have double great aunts, and that's kind of what Regina, we have these stories. It's like, oh, my auntie had a baby at 45. My great aunt had a baby.
Yeah, someone's in the chat right now saying Halle Berry had
babies.
Somebody's in the chat now saying Halle Berry had a baby at 47 and Janet Jackson had a baby at 50. So we're no Halle Berry's and Janet Jacksons, that's for sure.
And it could be, and we don't know what they did in there. Some of these, actors and actresses, they have frozen their eggs and embryos young because they have access to care. They have the money that they could have done those things, and they didn't disclose all of that. But yes, could they have spontaneous? At 47, you can't get spontaneous.
So then let's talk about freezing eggs here. Regina, what's the purpose of a woman freezing their eggs, and how long can eggs be frozen before they can no longer be fertilized?
Well, the purpose would be that if you are not intending to get pregnant right away, but you want to give yourself a safety net, let's say you have a demanding career and that's just not what you want to do right now. You want to be able to look back and not say, oh man, I wish I had done this. So people freezing their eggs is their way of having that security blanket that says, when I'm ready, either to carry on my own or to have a gestational carrier, also called a surrogate, you have that put away so that you don't have to run the risk of getting to an age where Dr. Loudon mentioned your AMH, which is your ovarian reserve. So like your egg number goes down because you, like she said, you're born with all the eggs you're ever going to get. So freezing your eggs is a way of having that security blanket. And I'm not sure that there's a limit on that. Dr. Loudon can probably speak more to it, but I don't believe there ever is. I know when
there is no expiration date.
Yeah,
no
when I talked to
expiration
my
date.
doctor about, we have frozen embryos and even the eggs that we collected when we were doing IVF, her mentality was like, well, now, that takes a lot of the pressure off of you because you have something there that you know is going to be fine when you want to use it.
So can you take your egg and give it to somebody else to birth for you?
Yes, you can. And there is a demand. There are a lot of people who want to adopt an embryo. You can place frozen embryos for adoption. And there are also people who are looking for egg donors from Black people, because if they're choosing to parent, they may want some kind of a connection to that child by race. And so there are a lot of people who are looking to donate eggs. And then I have a friend who wanted to become an egg donor, and they told her, we don't have a need for Black egg donors.
Woo!
That's not true.
I'm getting dozens of people in my inbox that are saying, I don't know where to go because every place that I'm going doesn't have any Black eggs.
So where can people go?
There are a few different organizations. I don't know off the top of my head, but I have been trying to put some on the Broken Brown Eggs resource list as I come up with them. Right. But I would definitely say follow Calais Stewart, who is an actress. She just launched warriorwednesdays.com. It's warrior-wednesdays.com. And she is an amazing advocate for egg freezing. And she has tons of resources on her site. And in-person interviews with people who have used various ways to either preserve their fertility or pursue parenthood.
Okay.
We call her the advocate, right?
Yeah.
I like that. The advocate. Well, I call you all advocates. So thank you so very much, L'Oreal, Erica, Dr. Loudon, Nichelle, and Regina for being on the show once again. And once again, we're out of time and we got to bring you back again to talk more about this. And I guess I should have you every year around this week, but we don't have to wait for a week in the year to talk about infertility. But thank you all for talking about it tonight. We got one person in the chat room saying, my aunt got pregnant at 55.
Yes, it happens.
It happens.
BIOS has an egg donor. We're looking for Black donors. So criteria 30 and healthy, you can donate eggs for a couple who needs it.
Thank you so much, ladies, for being on the Tammi Mac Late Show. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Tonight, the business of being Black is Infertility Awareness Week. Joining me now is the Georgia correspondent for The Intercept and columnist for Decatur-ish, George Chidi. And I know, George, all of our soulmates are looking like, wait, what a man got to do with infertility? Men have everything to do with infertility, right? Why is there a medical mythology about Black women overbreeding when in fact we are twice as likely as white women to experience infertility?
It's this ancient, horrid, racist myth that started, oddly enough, with Sanger and Planned Parenthood. And I'm a strong supporter of Planned Parenthood, but in their early years were eugenicists. And so they were presenting this idea of Black female fertility as a bad thing because Black families would be wards of the state and unable to take care of themselves. And so you should have less children. The idea being Black women were having too many children. And a lot of people bought into it. I mean, it was nonsense, but a lot of people bought into it.
And clearly still today, they're buying into it because as the ladies said, and the doctor said that there is so much bias going on in the hospital.
There absolutely is. And it's part of the reason why Black women don't seek fertility treatment at the same rates that white women do. I mean, socioeconomic factors aside, like you're waiting for some doctor to say or do something stupid, and they will, and then you're are in an incredibly vulnerable place. And then being like having to educate a physician about your needs in the middle of everything. Like,
yeah, that is crazy. That you as a patient have to educate the doctor on your needs when really you go in for the opposite to happen. In 1935, W.E.B. Du Bois once wrote, "The mass of ignorant Negroes still breed carelessly and disastrously." How has the racist falsehood that Black people overbreed infiltrated how we see ourselves?
so it's this idea that we can't take care of ourselves,
Mm.
that we have to be afraid of having children because we're afraid that we're not going to be good parents. And that leaks into so much of like the toxic elements of Black culture, where um, we're inundated with these messages about, oh, well, of course you're going to be a bad father because you're Black, kind of thing. I mean, it's horrifying and untrue. Like, and when you start digging into the actual research, you see at worst no difference in parenthood between Black parents and white parents. And
Wow.
often better parenting, like more interaction between fathers and children.
Yeah, there are surveys now that suggest or that flat out say Black men are more involved in their children's lives than any other ethnicity. You're a Georgia journalist to the core, so you
Very
do
much.
a lot of research and reporting on what's happening in the Peach State. How is the infertility situation uniquely troubling in Atlanta?
I have to tell you, like, first, I love Atlanta and I hate Atlanta equally. Like, I love living here, but my state's weird. Like it's not an accident. We're in the news all the time. Things are very strange here. And one of the problems is we have a maternal mortality rate that is slightly higher than Egypt and Brazil and third world countries. Honduras,
Like
you're
Honduras
safer.
and Thailand. Oh,
You're safer being a mother and giving birth in Honduras than you are as a Black mother in Georgia.
why is that?
So one, like there's this general hostility to like the medical establishment in Georgia. Like the medical establishment is hostile to Black patients,
Mhm.
period. Like there's the standard of care is lower. And in particular in the Black Belt, south of Atlanta, like we've got, counties that are rural, relatively poor, and majority African-American. The medical care there is third world in some cases. Like hospitals are shutting down, and so women are dying.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly frustrating to see because I'm in Atlanta, which is like the Black Mecca. Like everything should be great here. Come to Atlanta, everybody.
Absolutely.
Like, don't
Exactly.
come to Atlanta, everybody. Please don't come to Atlanta. We're full.
Well,
But
what is survivor's guilt, and why do Black women in Atlanta experience it regarding fertility?
so that's it. Like Atlanta is filling with young, upwardly mobile Black people and more Black women than men.
Mhm.
Come here, go to college, and get on the corporate career track like any other person who goes to college and then shows up in Atlanta. But there's extra pressure on Black women to perform here.
Ah.
And so they put off childbirth, like a lot of women who are upwardly mobile do. And then hit this medical establishment that is unfriendly, and a fertility environment that is unfriendly
I get
to
it.
Black women.
Yes. And then
Um,
they feel guilty that they have either waited so long or yeah.
and in particular, if you've got the money to do this, because fertility treatment can be really expensive. If you've got $10,000 or $20,000 to spend in order to get pregnant, it means that you've got real money. And frankly, there are a lot of Black women who don't, and it's the largest reason why Black women don't seek fertility treatment. They're afraid of the cost. Georgia is not a state where fertility treatment is part of your regular insurance coverage.
There are 16, I do want to say there are 16 states that do have coverage for fertility. So I want everyone to make sure that you look up if your state is one, if that is something you need help with. George, what can you tell us about your newsletter, The Intercept?
So I write for The Intercept, which is an investigative journal. I also have a Substack newsletter called The Atlanta Objective. And I'm looking at Atlanta is balanced in between this. Like, we could be the Black Mecca. We could be the greatest place in America to be an African American who's looking to make something out of your lives. But like, we're right at the edge of being a cyberpunk dystopia, like something that like The Running Man made real, because this city it'll crush you in ways that people who aren't living here don't understand. And it's I've been watching this for 10 years, and I think it's just time to really explain it to people.
And that's what The Intercept does for us?
The Intercept is about really investigative journalism. And that's what I'm about, is trying to dig deep into like real truths about the way the world works, so that people can separate truth from fiction.
I love it. I love it. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for digging real deep into infertility with the Black community today, George. I really appreciate you being on the show. And we're going to check you out again next Wednesday on the Tammi Mac Late Show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thank you all for watching me on YouTube. Don't go away, because we want to show you how you can save money. Fox Deals is coming up next. Until tomorrow, it's a blessing to be in your box on the Tammi Mac Late Show. Bye, y'all.